We're getting demonic with our ladies and making vacation friends with a Candyman. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Welcome to Offscreen, another week, another batch of great movies for you. Again, Van and I have been sat down watching furiously through all of the big releases this week and pulling together all of the... furiously. Well, in some cases, you may have found it furious on one or two of these films. One movie, fine, fair enough. Yeah.
Can I just say as well, by the way, of the films we're covering this week, we're not going to get to cover one that I did see, and I did text you, I did WhatsApp you about this, that is absolutely beautiful. If you get the chance to see it, you absolutely should. It's called The Last Bus, and it stars Timothy Spall as this 90-something-year-old widower who, when his wife passes away, they live in John O'Groats in Scotland, and when his wife passes away, he dedicates his life to basically making the journey back along this bus journey that the pair of them took in 1952 from Land's End to John O'Groats using only public buses and using his free bus pass, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
I know.
The whole thing, and there's flashbacks. It's like Jojo Moyes does the opening sequence from Up. It's incredible. You got to see it.
Oh, I don't think I could bear that. And in fact, your text to me was literally absolutely weeping.
It really was.
Yeah, there we go. Great recommendation there. But let's kick off with something a little bit more lighthearted. You know, first we had The Rock step out of the ring and onto the big screen. And then, you know, there were a flurry of kind of, you know, other wrestlers doing the same thing. Dave Bautista, we obviously know. But someone that's managed to really capture comedy in a really good way is John Cena. And, you know, I loved his sort of mini cameo in like Trainwreck. That for me always made me laugh because he just knows how to play that kind of big, dumb ex-wrestler, I suppose, is what you kind of say. And he kind of has really cemented himself in Hollywood. And I think this first movie that we're going to talk about today, Vacation Friends, sort of sits on the shoulders of John Cena. Am I right?
Very much so. So, I mean, this is an old school buddy comedy. You've seen this formula done to death, to be fair. This is very much a throwback. It's a throwaway film, but it's also a throwback. So it is kind of a mismatch, you know, straight man and agent of chaos sort of buddy comedy. Kind of thing that Steve Martin used to do a lot of, or Chevy Chase, or, you know, people like Charles Grodin. Martin Short. Yeah, Charles Grodin would often play the straight man in these movies unless it was Midnight Run. So Midnight Run is the kind of buddy cop version of this, the action version. This is Vacation Friends, feature debut from Clay Tarver, who is a writer I know of from having been quite acclaimed and winning a few awards, writing on Silicon Valley for HBO. He's making his feature debut with this one, and it's effectively Lil Rel Howery, who most of us know, I think, from Get Out now because he's T.S. blank A, you know, in Get Out. He and his partner go away on vacation, and I forget where I think it's like Mexico or something. In fact, it is Mexico. And while they're there, they meet another couple, played by John Cena and I think it's Meredith Hagner. And they are this sort of wild, frenzied, drug-addled, hedonistic couple, whereas Lil Rel and his missus are a bit more straight-laced. They become friends, they have a wild time on vacation and decide to cut loose and just have a go, you know, let's just have vacation friends and do all the wild drinking, partying, drug-fueled orgy stuff that we would never do in our regular lives. What happens on vacation stays on vacation, but they get engaged on the vacation as well. And when the wedding rolls around a few months later, John Cena and Meredith Hagner, well, they're not really that content to just be vacation friends. I've got a clip for you that's them actually sort of bonding in Mexico. Gives you a setup of the dynamic between them.
What does this mean?
Depresso liber. It's a phrase that has special meaning to people such as myself, Marcus. A reminder that a powerful weapon like this should only be used when absolutely necessary. Now put that bottle on your head. I'm gonna shoot it off. Yes!
No, hold on one second. Hold on a second. Guys, no, seriously, stop playing.
It's fine. We play this game at home all the time.
Babe, he's not serious. We've been drinking and we've been smoking.
No.
Count it!
What? The
You hit the bottle this time.
Oh my God.
This is a Disney backed movie, right?
It's an inherited Disney-backed
Okay,
movie. This
fine.
was a Fox project. Now, this began life, I think, something like 7 or 8 years ago, as a vehicle. In fact, it was 2014 because it was the same year that Guardians of the Galaxy opened. It was planned as a vehicle for Chris Pratt, and Anna Faris, because of course they were real-life couple at the time. It then, a couple of years later, turned up again as an Ice Cube project, and then has now become this iteration has been entirely made since the Disney merger. Like, this only started going into development at the end of 2019. So it has been done for this. But yeah, this is coming out on Disney Plus this week.
Okay.
And not even as a premium access tier. This is just a straight going to streaming on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay, so that's good. So it's open for everyone to watch, which is fantastic, you know. And I think I love a good buddy comedy. I love a throwaway, easy to watch movie. And I think, you know, John Cena is enough of a pull for more mainstream audiences to think they know what they're going to get out of this, and as long as they're not going to be disappointed, I think this is a really good option.
It's nuts and bolts. It's exactly as you say that. Exactly as you describe. It is nuts and bolts, and it is very, very much to the formula. If I have a big complaint, I mean, John Cena's phenomenal, as always. Like, John Cena, as you pointed out, going on films like Trainwreck, and I think he had Sisters that same summer as well. And I think John Cena's secret always seems to be that rather than do The Rock's route of, I'll become the action star and then I'll become self-deprecating and very meta later on, his route has been, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with that and see where I can move it from there. And he's doing some quite interesting comedic work with it. Like Suicide Squad, you said, quite an interesting play on that. Took The Rock a long time to get to that. John Cena has done it in a lot shorter venue. Cena and Howery, though, they make for good... They've got good bants, as the kids would say. The bromantic chemistry is there. If I've got a complaint, it's that the marketing and the poster for this sold me on the idea that it was about the couples, and I do feel like it does radically sideline the female leads.
Yeah,
I think it radically sideline them in favor of the two male leads, which I suppose typical Hollywood gender bias, just a bit depressing to see it in a film that's been developed in the last 2 years. But other than that, it's on streaming. It's nuts and bolts. It's a 3-star film. You'll have a basically good time. There are some good solid laughs, and there's some vintage Cena moments.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, listen, moving on, because I want to move us on very quickly because I'm really excited about this remake. I remember as a kid watching the original movie of Candyman way too young. In fact, I was 12 because I was watching it with a group of school friends, and we were absolutely terrified.
It was a sleepover film, wasn't it?
It was a sleepover film, yeah. And I don't know why, 90s parents, they just let you do it. But they let you do this and watch a horror movie that you're way too young for. And never again will I say the words Candyman into the mirror. But in 2021, do I need to be worried?
Well, apparently you do, because the publicists had a brilliant idea for this one, which is when we turned up for the screening, they'd actually put Candyman 5 times in sticker form over every mirror, as if daring everyone there. I was like, wow, okay, you're kind of asking for trouble there. Anyway, so 2021, actually not 2021, 2020, but delayed, thanks COVID, sort of reboot-quel. And literally, in that sense, this does follow on from Candyman 1, but it does so, unlike Halloween, where this is, that's an alternative part 2, this is very much those sequels can very well still just be canon. Like, no one's saying they're irrelevant. We're just not mentioning them. This follows on decades later from the events of that first movie, and particularly the infant child in that movie, who is now our lead, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who you might remember as playing Bobby Seale in Trial of the Chicago 7 recently. He is a hipster artist who's doing a project about the projects from Candyman, the Sabrini Green project, and finds himself drawing on the legend of the Candyman for inspiration in his work, only for the key component of the Candyman legend, it turns out to be that for Candyman to have any real power, people need to know his legend, because it turns out if they know his legend, guess what they're gonna go and do?
And the legend is, if you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and kills you. So, I thought that we could...
What did you think?
Summon him.
Hell no. No.
Candyman.
Anthony.
Candyman.
Anthony, no.
Candyman.
Stop. Stop it.
Candyman.
Stop it.
Okay.
You better not do
Okay,
that.
okay, okay. Candyman.
See, you play too much. You
Tingles already. Like, I'm just like, don't do it. I thought, from obviously thinking way back to when I was 12, I thought it was 3 times in the mirror. It was only when I watched the trailer that I remembered it's 5, because sometimes that feels a bit arduous to kind of say it 5 times. But is it scary? Has it got the jump scares? Has it got,
Yes.
the bit that we're,
Yep.
yeah, it has.
It's got everything.
Has it?
It's brilliant, Bax. I don't know. I came out of this. I was just like, I'm genuinely blown away by how absolutely brilliant Nia DaCosta's Candyman is. It's not only that. It might be one of the best sequels ever made to a movie. I'm not even kidding. I think this is genuinely terrific. It's very much in the vein of something like David Gordon Green's Halloween from 3 years ago, where it is that sort of decades later follow-on, like I say. Yahya Abdul-Mateen second, brilliant performance.
Yeah.
Incredible performance, really selling this. But this is, you can feel Jordan Peele's fingerprints all over this. You really can. This fits absolutely in line with, not to take anything away from Nia DaCosta, but it feels like it's come from that umbrella that gave us Get Out, that gave us the Twilight
He's certainly
Zone.
set the path,
to
hasn't
a
he?
lesser extent, he has. It's kind of bled into Shyamalan movies of late as well. This new generation of A24 influenced horror, this is their Candyman. But here's the kicker: as well as being that, it is also quite brilliantly subversive in one key component, and this is it. As we've just aptly pointed out, Candyman is a sleepover movie from our tween years. To someone our age, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Candyman was never one of those slasher movies. It was never one of those. It was actually quite an art house, serious horror movie. But because of the marketability of the character, it sort of got taken by popular culture and swept alongside things around that time, like Freddy's Dead, and I think it was Jason Goes to Hell around that time as well. I think Halloween 6, I believe, was around about 94, around that kind of time as well. So it got swept up with all the trash horror movies, despite the fact it was actually one of the more art house ones. And then they made sequels, which it turned out were trash horror like that. So it never really got a look in. What they do here is basically slap you in the face and say, yes, Candyman is an art house horror film, but you know what? We're still going to have some fun with it. Here's some trash horror. So you get this incredible artsy horror drama that then has these wonderfully subversive, playful, just gore fests, but they're artistically incredible gore fests. Like intricate deaths, very well staged and terrifying murders. It's brilliant. I don't want to say too much more about it. There are themes in there about gentrification. If you want, like, there is that very big thing about the art community and gentrification and how, activism can feed into destroying the thing that it's trying to prop up. I could talk for days about it, but to do it without, you having seen the film, I feel is taking it away from you because there's so much you can talk about with it. So see it. Love it. You will have a blast.
Yeah, and I'm representing all our lovely listeners here. I think this is one you've just got us really excited for. I'm going to grab my pillow, ready to sit in front of my face and watch this. So that's Candyman. That is out today in cinemas. I mean, this sounds like it's going to be the full cinematic experience. You just want to go for a horror, sit behind your chair. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, and just pray when you walk out of that screening room, there are no reflective surfaces. That's all I'm going to say.
Welcome back to Off Screen. I have come out from hiding behind my pillow and I'm ready to see a few more light-hearted movies. I'm hoping at least one of these in our next block is much more light-hearted. In fact, I know it is because I've seen it. I've very much enjoyed it. We're going to be talking first about Our Ladies. This is a 2019 film which has been delayed and has now only just come out. Oh yeah.
Do you remember this started screening in the few weeks before lockdown? Like we started getting our sort of advanced screenings. I think it was meant for a month or so. I think it was 3 weeks to a month maybe after the first lockdown began is when this was originally set for, I think, because we were starting to get the marketing and the early screenings.
Well, it's interesting that it's still, like, even though we're starting to get it, it was still a 2019 film. But anyway, the premise of this movie is great. It's about a bunch of choir chicks. It's the easiest way to say this. Catholic schoolgirls up in Scotland who are in part of a
In 1996, you've got to drop that in there. That's a biggie as well.
It's a big year. That's kind of the train spotting year, isn't it? And that is very much linked in a way to this. They basically take a trip to Edinburgh to compete in this choir competition, but that takes absolutely second stage, because what they really want to do is they want to booze, they want to go and take drugs, and they want to hook up with lots of boys. And that's exactly what this film is about.
Excuse me. The manageress was asking if you'd mind not doing that lighting up the drinks thing. She's concerned you'll burn yourselves.
Would you him?
Wouldn't kick him out of bed.
Unless you wanted to do him on the floor.
I'm just telling you what the manageress said.
But do you think he'd us?
He'd be lucky to us.
He'd be desperate to us.
Look, we never asked you for ID, did we?
Is he saying we're underage?
Look, mister, we paid for these drinks, so we'll suck them up our if we want to.
We'll need 5 straws for that.
I love this movie so much. It's so good. In fact, a friend of mine is a novelist now, former columnist turned author, Rebecca Reed. I think you might have met her actually. And I got in touch with her after this, like, specifically, you have to see this movie. It is Stand By Me for teenagers in 90s Scotland, teenage girls in 90s Scotland.
Yeah.
It is and because I think she's been to things like Derry Girls and
Derry Girls,
things like
yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, this might be along the same alley. Apparently, very much so. I think this is great. How much fun and how much heart and soul is there in this movie?
I'm not going to give this away, but at the end, they do a kind of look back on the lives of where these girls have ended up. And I thought, oh my God, have I watched a true story? Like, is that what's happened in this? There's really good stuff in this that I think... you mentioned sort of Stand By Me. I get that. Stand By Me meets Derry Girls in a way. But also there are elements that I found stylistically, like with Train Spotting, the dank, dreary, half-empty clubs that they go into, this kind of feeling of grotty Edinburgh. There's a bit of brassed off element to it with like the choir side of things. There's lots of real influences from the 90s that I think really works in this, but it is tenacious, it is funny, it is well acted, and it's not got like your all-star A-lister lead to distract you. It's a really clever group casting that works really well, and it's an exploratory coming of age, story in a short period of time that is kind of boundary pushing at the same time as well. I really loved it.
Yeah, same. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of those films as well that I think would work incredibly well on an audience who actually are the age of the characters depicted. So I think for a teenage girl, this would prove absolutely brilliant. But I think also for adult women as well. I think this is just destined to induce many a millennial school coach trip flashback.
Yes.
Because there's, regardless of gender, there's just something so relatable in that school day out from the mid-90s where it's like, God, I kind of remember that. Wow, I remember that feeling.
I think that's why I loved it so much, is because I not to say that I was as St. Trinians-like as these girls were, but actually the idea of being a bit defiant to your teachers, not having any social media or any distractions like that is it takes it back to this kind of simpler time, which you and I are. This is perfect for you, the age of you and I, because of that absolute nostalgia that we will have got from this.
Yeah.
And the setting in Edinburgh, it isn't like bright lights, beautiful. It's a bit dank. It's a bit dreary. The guys
it's grotty,
are a little bit. Yeah, the guys, and I'd love to know what they use the word tinker as a bit of a kind of an offensive word. And I'm like, That doesn't sound too offensive to me. Why was it so offensive? I kind of need to know this.
Maybe it's a regional thing. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing, though, because you mentioned St. Trinian's there, because you reminded me we've kind of neglected the whole Catholic element of this, which is actually quite a big narrative and character-based element within the film. But I'm just going to throw it out there. The performances for all the girls across the board are all great. There is not a duff note to be found in this movie. I will, though, say, if you're going to make a movie about Catholic schoolgirls and it's a teen dramedy, look, it's cheating to call Kate Dickie up, all right? It's cheating. Don't look. We know what you're doing. She knows what you're doing. We all know what we're in for. She's having a blast. We're having a blast. We know she doesn't even have to try to be this incredible. But cheap shot. That was a cheap win. That one, getting Kate Dickie to be like the mother superior. Not even the mother superior. She's just the sister. She's the choir leader, isn't she?
Yeah. She is. And also Tallulah Grieve, I think, who is an Australian
she's the lead
actress. She's the lead. She's really good in this. There's that kind of like innocence about her, but then it completely turns on its head when she kind of has her awakening. There's all this stuff that kind of, it has twists and turns and just keeps you into it. And it's in a tidy 1 hour 45 minutes, I think. So it's
because it is over
nice
the course of one day, isn't it? It's just one solitary day with these characters, and it's great. It has that almost Ferris Bueller's Day Out kind of like level of timekeeping about it. I thought it was great. I mean, I was moved by it. I laughed. I had great. I will say, it's one of 3 genuinely great films out this week, alongside The Last Bus and Candyman.
Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. But let's move on to our final film that we're talking about today. This is another horror. I think. I don't know.
It's horrible.
Oh, it's horrible. Okay, great.
It's horrible.
I look forward to this one. It's demonic. I mean, I know nothing. So enlighten me or don't.
Well, do you remember Neil Blomkamp, writer director of District 9 and Elysium and Chappie? Yeah, well, Neil Blomkamp has fallen into that sort of Guillermo del Toro-like hole now, where he's actually starting to become more known for all the movies he doesn't wind up making than the ones he does. Like, for those 3 I just named, there are about 9 he didn't, up to and including reboots of RoboCop, Alien 5, just loads of things like that. Well, now, over lockdown, evidently, he got bored and decided, screw it, I'm just going to go and make a horror film. Okay, fair enough. Let's see what you got. So he gave us the story of Carly, played imaginatively enough by Carly Pope. You might remember from that series Popular years ago. Remember that series with Leslie Bibb? Yeah, years ago. Carly Pope was the sort of the likable lead on that one versus the nastier rich chick who I think was Leslie Bibb. And she's the lead here. She's been raised in the shadow of her mother, who went insane when she was younger, has been incarcerated for a murderous spree. She is contacted by a medical research company who've been doing a clinical trial on her comatose mother, and they want her to effectively do an inception, where she is projected via simulation into a sort of virtual reality matrix-like space that is created out of her mind. You might also remember this, funnily enough, as the plot to The Cell, starring Jennifer Lopez from the year 2000. So this is Neil Blomkamp, for some reason, doing a knockoff of The Cell.
Think of what we're building here as kind of a second reality for all your senses. Your thoughts, like where to move your hand, are driven by your motor cortex. We redirect these impulses to a digital version of you, and in that virtual space, you will meet your mother. But you have to think of it as stepping into someone's mind, into her mind. It can be very confusing for the outsider, because a piece of one place, one memory, might be inserted into another. Kind of like a dream. Make sense?
I was watching you there. You just had a smirk on your face throughout that entire clip. That, for me, sums up that this is a doozy. This is not a good one.
Do you remember that time we saw that movie? The one that starred Taylor Schilling, and her son got possessed, and it was set in the present day. I forget when it was, about 2 or 3 years ago. We sat, you know the bit I'm going to refer to. When the Exorcist people turn up and they talk about how possession works, and one character just says, "Oh, this explains everything." You're like, wait, what? Hang on. You just got told ghosts and possessions are a thing, and your response to that is, "This explains everything." Okay. Listening to the dialogue in that clip, the way he says, this is how it works, kind of like a dream. But he says it in such a matter-of-fact way, like we often just walk around dreams. And I'm sort of thinking, hang on a minute. It's because the cinematic language in the 10 years since Inception has been such that you kind of have to take the Rick and Morty approach to all this now, which is say, well, yeah, but you also just say we're just gonna Inception these people. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna the Purge this thing. Just say the concept now. Just get away, because we're done kind of pretending this is original, and evidently so is Neil Blomkamp. This is one of the most phoned-in screenplays you've ever seen. The performances evidently took the social distancing element of the production for this, which obviously was done over, the last year, to heart, because first of all, every shot of this movie is in medium wide, it seems, despite the fact that for a lot of it it's just people in a room talking. Most of the time it's green screen, and they put a half decent After Effects induced simulation preset over it, but everyone is noticeably 2 meters apart. And I think with that physical distance seems to come a distance of personality and emotion as well, because good Lord, there's nothing close to a human being to be found in this movie. When I said it was like Neil Blomkamp doing The Cell, it is like him phoning in a rip-off of The Cell, to the extent where I'm now wondering what's next. Is Guillermo del Toro going to do his version of The Lawnmower Man? Because if we're going to just chuck out random sci-fi crap from the 90s, at least give me that one, because I want to see who you're going to replace Pierce Brosnan with. This does not feel, in terms of its production, even like it's been put to the caliber of made to streaming. And I say that in inverted quotes. This feels like it was made for the horror channel, made for cable. This is a really cheap, really slapped together movie. It feels like it was just done on digital, wasn't even color graded, given any kind of post work. It's just a shambles. I can't think of anything more to say. I gave it 3 out of 10 in my notes. I put here utter crap, points for the simulation effects, and naff all else besides maybe a couple of half decent ideas. And really, that's it. I feel like that is now increasingly just becoming the grade of Neil Blomkamp. That's the legacy of the once great emerging talent that was District 9 director Neil Blomkamp, to a T, if I'm being honest.
Wow. And I was just going to ask, but I think I know the answer. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of disappointment? I'm assuming it's
generous. 3. That's from my notes. That's generous, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only thing demonic is having to actually pay money to see it. So I suggest very, very strongly that you don't.
Welcome back to Off Screen. We are moving from the big screen to the small screen and looking at movies on TV for you. And we're going to do this in a nice, fast, pacey way for you. And we're going to kick off with a little bit of an action thriller for a Saturday night, which is on Watch at 9 p.m. Oh, it's a great movie. It is I'm Your Captain Now. It's Captain Phillips. I thought this was edge of your seat. Brilliant. I really love this. It's obviously the story of a ship that gets taken over by Somali pirates. The ship is obviously captained by Tom Hanks in this, and it did so well. It was like it was all the buzz. It's a Paul Greengrass film. It was all the buzz at award season and stuff. And I think very much well deserved as well. 2013 this came out. Blimey.
Yeah, and I say it's all about Hanks, though, isn't it? I mean, Barkhad Abdi.
Yeah.
I think, did Barkhad Abdi win the Oscar for this? I think, didn't he? I don't remember seeing him in anything else except Alita Battle Angel. But tremendous performances all around. But I don't think you can take it away from Hanks.
UKMTO.
Operations?
Receiving.
This is Mask, Alabama.
Our position is 2 degrees 2 north by 49 degrees 19 east. Our course is 180, our speed is 17 knots.
We have 2 skiffs approaching at a distance of 1.5 miles with a possible mothership following.
Potential piracy situation.
Copy, Alabama. You should alert your crew, get your fire hoses ready, and follow lockdown procedures.
Is that it?
I'm relaying your transmission now, but chances are it's just fishermen.
They're not here to fish.
Oh, I just think, it's that moment of in what was the film with Sandra Bullock, where she goes spinning into space. I just can't think of the title.
Gravity.
Gravity, yeah, I knew it started with a G. It's like where you go, worst scenario ever, and you kind of think, that's in space, worst scenario ever. This, on the sea, you're kind of going, oh, worst scenario ever, being taken over by pirates. Don't want it.
I still think worst scenario ever. I've seen the movie. Is still Ryan Reynolds in the movie Buried. That one keeps me up at night. But Captain Phillips, you can see Saturday night on, and we never really get to recommend films on Watch, but it's on Watch at 9 p.m. Check this out. It's such a good one, Captain Phillips. But on to Sunday, Ms. Perfect. What do you got?
Oh, well, Tale as Old as Time is what I've got for you. It is BBC One, 3:35 p.m. We have the live action version of Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson. Emma Watson? Yes, Emma Watson's in this.
It is Emma Watson and Dan Stevens as the Beast, with Luke Evans as Gaston and
The best casting for Gaston.
Josh Gad as LeFou.
Yeah.
Who blink and you'll miss him is the first gay character in a live-action Disney movie.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think I'm still unsure about Emma Watson's casting in this. I think there's a few others that could have done it in a way. I'm just not a massive Emma Watson fan, but Luke Evans as Gaston, you couldn't get more perfect casting than that. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And he, throughout all the promotional time around that, he absolutely played it to a T as well. It was brilliant. I think I saw him on the Late Late Show with James Corden, just absolutely belting the song out brilliantly. And I think it's a good remake. I think I do enjoy seeing the live action remakes of all the Disney movies out of pure curiosity, I think. But this isn't up there as one of the most memorable ones for me. But it is still a really decent watch.
I personally, when I think of the Disney live action adaptations now, I do think of this as one of the strong ones. But I think in our house, we have, my family have a really strong attachment to Beauty and the Beast. So it's a really big deal. My 2-year-old nephew watches the live action and animated Beauty and the Beast regularly. It's part of his rotation. But I think Emma Watson, works with the casting because there is a noticeable effort, I think, with this adaptation to sort of lean into the fact that Belle is kind of an insufferable character in a way. And I think Emma Watson is conscious of that and does inject a sort of knowingness into her performance doing that. I think she's aware that she's kind of a hipster douche. Really.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, let's move swiftly on then, because that's on Sunday. Again, BBC One, 3:35 p.m. Perfect Sunday afternoon movie for you. On to Monday is a film that I very much enjoyed. You haven't seen this one, Ban. It's on BBC Two at 10:30 p.m. Any fans of the RBG out there, the notorious RBG, you will be wanting to watch this movie. Felicity Jones, Armie Hammer, or let's say his name only for our sins, is on the basis of sex, which is the story of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how she came to prominence as one of the most incredible legal minds, innovators of our time, really. And obviously, it's very sadly in the last couple of years we've lost her, but she has definitely left her mark. And this, although a linear film in its format, actually gives you all the information you need on just how amazing Ruth Bader Ginsburg was.
They all turned you down, right? How many? 10?
12.
A woman, a mother, and a Jew to boot. I'm surprised that many let you through the door.
One sent me to interview for the secretarial pool. Another told me I'd be too busy at bake sales to be effective. One partner closes clients in the locker room at his club, so he said I'd be out of the loop. Last week, I was told women are too emotional to be lawyers. Then that same afternoon, that a woman graduating top of her class must be a real ballbuster and wouldn't make a good colleague. I was asked when I'd have my next baby and whether I keep Shabbat. One interviewer told me I had a sterling resume, but they hired a woman last year, and what in the world would they want with two of us?
You must be livid.
You know what? I was just thinking, just listening to that, I love Felicity Jones. I would have liked to have seen her as Belle in Beauty and the Beast. I think she would have done Belle really well.
There are a lot of roles that you do think Felicity Jones could do that very easily. I mean, she was wasted, for instance, in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which no one ever noticed that she was cast in as the setup for being. She was there as the setup to become the Black Cat down the line. Cause she's playing that character. She's of course a Star Wars alum now. Is the lead of what I would argue is one of the best ones, Rogue One.
Yes, I loved Rogue One.
Good casting, I think, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but the accent sounds a bit naff. I'm intrigued to see it because I want to know the story. I don't know enough about the woman because that's why I want to see the movie. I'm intrigued by what the story was there.
Yeah.
I've seen the documentary, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
it gives you a good education. I think it's well acted. I think it looks, that perfect kind of 1960s, almost Mad Men style look and feel to it. And it gives you all the feels when she finally achieves what she needs to achieve as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So yeah, I think it's a really, really solid movie. Let's move on to Tuesday. This is more your bag, Van. I know you love this. I mean, I'm going to hand it over to you. I know what you like.
I don't even particularly like this one. So this is Alien Covenant on Film 4, 9 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm a completist. Like I'm always the completist. I am the guy that will still watch Spider-Man 3, after I've watched 1 and 2. I will still watch Batman and Robin after I've watched, the 2.5 good ones. And, I will always watch The Dark Knight. Actually, I think The Dark Knight Rises is pretty good, I'm not going to lie. But Alien Covenant, it's fine if you're a completist. If you've seen Prometheus, it's on, and it's certainly the best of the bad bunch because there was nothing else on Tuesday night. We're going to have to rattle through these quickly anyway. So on Wednesday, Paramount, 11:40, one of my favourite movies ever. I'm sure you'll agree, a stone cold classic. Yeah. From Dusk Till Dawn is on. Clooney at his coolest. And would you believe that movie was a financial dud when it opened? From Dusk Till Dawn.
I don't care. Everybody be cool. You be cool. Like I'm just like, you know what? This is brilliant. It's a cult hit that grew.
There's a really good movie, a documentary about the making of it, like feature length on Netflix called Full Tilt Boogie. That's worth a watch.
Ooh. And actually, do you know what? I didn't mind the series too much about this. Like, it was kind of word for word, but it was okay. You just kind of miss Clooney and you miss, Tarantino.
It's only the first season, because I got stuck around the beginning of the second season. The first season is the movie, kind of like Snowpiercer. The first season is the movie, and then season 2 onwards, they've got to go and do their own thing, because God knows they are not going to adapt. Was it From Dusk Till Dawn to...
I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember what it was now.
Yeah.
Blood Money? Hangman's Daughter? Something like that. But anyway, so From Dusk Till Dawn, 11:40, Wednesday, Paramount. Thursday, Film 4. Is it 6:25 p.m? It's decently early time for a decently family-friendly movie. It is, of course, one of the best X-Men movies. X-Men Days of Future Past, which actually at the time saw the then much in-demand return of Bryan Singer to the franchise. We wouldn't be cheering so much now if Marvel hired Bryan Singer to do it for the MCU, but back when Bryan Singer returned in 2014, that was a really big deal. And this is, of course, the all-star team-up in which the old squad meet the new squad, the older X-Men meet their younger incarnations. Sir Pat Stu gets to meet James McAvoy, Ian McKellen, and Michael Fassbender. I think get to share a movie. It's the movie you always wanted to see, and the bridge at the centre of all of it, of course, is Hugh Jackman's Logan, because it was a Fox X-Men movie. So, of course, it had to be obsessed with X-Men. But I'm going to turn Friday night, the wild night, Miss Perfect, over to you.
Oh.
What you got to take us partying into the weekend?
Possibly my favourite Zack Snyder movie. This is Gerard Butler. And the movie that kind of got me awake about what you can do visually with a movie. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. It was converting a graphic novel into a big screen phenomenon. It's 300 on 5-star at 9 p.m. This is Sparta! I love that this kind of Greek mythology meets modern day movie making and does it in a way that kind of just, at the time, blew my mind.
You bring the crowns and heads of conquered kings to my city steps. You insult my queen. You threaten my people with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, Persian. Perhaps you should have done the same.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
Madness. This is Sparta!
Do you know what I was just going to say on this? I watched a little interview with Jerry Butler, and Jerry, love him, and he was saying that actually every time they did the take on that, he would do it in different ways, and the cast would always giggle at him, and then he just went for it and just went, "This is Sparta," and then everyone was like, "Whoa, okay, that's the shot."
I mean, I think 300 is a great movie.
So good.
I think the sequel's not especially bad either. If you get over the fact that it's not quite as A-list, and it's a bit past its time. Like, if it had come out 2 or 3 years after the first one, I think it'd be a lot more highly regarded. Sin City, incidentally, is the movie that I think had the same effects on me that this did. But putting aside that Zack Snyder's remit for this entire movie seems to be just give me orange boobs, male or female, I don't mind. And that literally is the remit. I just can't help but look at 300 and just think, what a weird time that must have been filming that movie. You know, just on a blue stage, it's just like a bunch of oiled men in
It's just so homoerotic, isn't it?
It is. It's just like Michael Fassbender and Jerry Butler and David Wenham, just hanging around in their leather codpieces. Like, what must the lunch breaks have been like?
Spartacus.
Can you just imagine? Like they're all going, like, they call lunch, they're all going to the taco truck, you know, Gerard Butler and Michael Fassbender, just asses out, leather codpieces.
Hold my shield.
Just what a weird movie. But you know what? The end result obviously paid off, and you can see that for yourself this next Friday night. It's showing on 5 Star at 9 p.m. And you know what? Friday night, 9 p.m, 300. Perfect way to start the weekend, that one. Yeah.
Welcome back to Off Screen. Now, last week we saw the return of DVDs and Blu-rays after a little bit of a hiatus. And
They did seem to have gone, didn't they, for a while there?
Yeah, but don't worry, they are back. In fact, this week we don't just have one DVD and Blu-ray offering, we have 2. So we've got, I mean, what a time to be alive.
Spoiled choice, aren't we?
Oh, so much so. So those who wish me dead, Van, you're not one of those, I hope. But what's this movie all about?
I don't know if you remember this one. This was one of the Warner Brothers HBO Max day and date releases from about 3 months ago, I want to say. Angelina is the firefighter, who this was such a 90s concept, because I think it's written by Taylor Sheridan. And it's Angelina is the firefighter who must protect a young boy whose father is a government witness and who assassins are trying to kill. And in order to basically, capture this child who's running through the forest with Angelina, the firefighter, they start a forest fire.
Is that fire? Yeah. That's a big one. We gotta go back.
I'm not going through that again.
We can't go through that. That eats everything in its path. I would have seen this from the tower. I didn't call it in. They're gonna send a chopper to figure out why. Chopper is that way. Back there. You don't get through that. We're going that way.
Ooh, that doesn't sound like Oscar-winning Angelina to me. But,
no, it's not at all. No,
Yeah,
this is like
it,
late '90s, 105-minute like action thriller with a star. You know, it's a Star Plus concept thriller from the late '90s. It absolutely works. You'd like this.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I will check that one out on my DVD player that I don't have anymore. Moving on, a film that we've both seen, and we quite liked, reviewed this recently, The Surrogate. It's out there. It follows a gay couple whose best friend decides to take on the surrogacy of their new unborn child for them. But it was quite a nice, very New York, very hipster dynamic. Everything looks and feels almost like it's like a documentary style fly on the wall that you're watching.
Verite style, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I liked it. I kind of thought it was okay. Did everything that you expect it to, but good acting in this.
There's Jasmine Batchelor. I think this was her first film. Is the lead, and she's absolutely tremendous. I thought the film was a really interesting dissection of the inherent drama of early diagnosed what do you call it, conditions that develop during pregnancy. And in this case, it's Down syndrome that's dealt with. But writer-director Jeremy Hirsch, I think, did a really good job here. I mean, Miriam and I were still talking about this a day later. Like, genuinely, the following day after we watched this, we were just, driving. I think we were driving Thorpe Park or something, and just talking about this film. So it sticks with you. It's a really interesting drama that has things to say and does have ideas that it does explore and does generate discussion. I think it's a really interesting one, worth checking out anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to streaming. We've got a couple of Netflix offerings for you, something on Disney Plus and some Prime Video as well. But let's kick off with what we've got on Netflix. Old School. Is this old school? This is the original Old School. They've not rebooted it or anything like that. They're sticking with the original.
This is still Old School. Todd Phillips's Old School, you remember, from 2003, starring as its core trio Luke Wilson, the one from Stargirl, not Owen Wilson from Loki. Sorry, getting confused now between my Wilson brothers. Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn, and they are the trio who basically set up their own college fraternity and then find themselves at war with that crusty old dean, played by Jeremy Piven. I love this movie. This is one of my go-to, like, early noughties. And some of the things in this have not aged brilliantly, but we are talking about more just the bro side of it rather than it having particular attitudes or comments or anything like that. Other than that, it's relatively sterile on that front. But that's worth checking out on Wednesday on Netflix. I know I'll be sticking it on at some point. But on Friday the 3rd on Netflix is a more interesting new release. And this is worth... Have you heard about this? Well, this is the Michael Keaton one, Bex.
No, but I will watch anything that Michael Keaton is in, so...
This is the Michael Keaton drama about the support for the families of the 9/11 victims, about the payouts that were given to the families and how they worked that out, because obviously do you give certain amounts for certain people, so on and so forth. And Michael Keaton is the man upon whose shoulders this all falls. So that is on from the 3rd. Hopefully we might get to review that one next week. We've not looked at the schedule yet, but the same day. And this one's been coming since before COVID. The Camila Cabello, I want to say her name. Cabello version of Cinderella on Amazon Prime. This was a Sony one that Sony flogged to Amazon Prime. This is out on Friday the 3rd. And it's a musical. You know, of course, it's got Camila Cabello. She's the Skechers girl. She's the Skechers girl. Cabello. She's the Skechers lady to me. That's it. That's all she ever is. I don't know what band she was in. She's the lady in Skechers. She's the hot lady in Skechers. That's it. She's the one who's not Kelly Brook. That's all I know. And then, of course, on Disney Plus.
Van. She is the one that broke out from Fifth Harmony and made it as a solo artist. There you go. Okay, you're welcome. This looks terrible.
It does. It does, I'm not going to lie. But you know me, as soon as Billy Porter turns up in something, I'm like, oh, God, witness my tragic moment. But...
Of course, he's your glamorous fairy godmother in this. How else would you have him, like, striking a pose doing that? It just looks awful. I've seen the trailer. I do not want to see any more. Please don't make me review this next week.
I try. If Billy Porter were my fairy godmother turning up, we're like, can I wish for, like, you to just be a Jarvis instead, something like that. But anyway, so on to Disney Plus, same day, and here is a Tom Hanks movie that I'm always astonished that so many people have never seen. And it was the man's directorial debut as well. I believe he also had a hand in writing it and producing it. It is That Thing You Do from 1996. Yeah. He has a small role as the sort of cliched but likable sleazy record exec who discovers an up-and-coming band called The Wonders and turns their undeniably catchy pop song into the biggest hit in the universe. And this is all during the heyday of the early 60s, I think pre-Beatles in the US, craze of the boy band monkey-style one-hit wonders.
The Wonders are in breach of contract.
Sorry. I'm really sorry, Mr. White.
Well, don't worry. No one's going to prison, son. It's a very common tale.
Well, maybe for you, but I was in a band and we still have a hit record.
Yeah, you do. One-hit wonders. It's a very common tale.
My first time in a real recording studio.
You want to hang around for a while? Okay by me. But you're out of the hotel this afternoon. Can't help that.
Liv Tyler's in this, isn't she, as well?
Liv Tyler is a sort of Penny Lane
Yeah.
figure in this one. Yeah, you know, the sort of Yoko of the band. I think Jonathan Skeech is in there as well. Steve Zahn is in the band. I don't remember who the other one is, but I guarantee when I look this up later, it's going to turn out to be someone who's now huge that I've neglected. It's just like young Army Hammer or something.
I remember watching this, and actually, I think I've watched it once or twice back when it actually came out, and I enjoyed it. You know, I think you've got to have like an affinity with that time period and understanding, like, you know, how big a band like the Monkees, for instance, were. You know, and what they spawned, because obviously the Monkees, for instance, then went on to doing a TV show and all this kind of stuff, and how that was kind of how it changed the way for boy bands and paved the way, in fact, for what we see now, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, this was a real joy of mine at the time. This is a movie I used to watch on Laserdisc. Would you believe that's how far back I go? Watch it on Laserdisc. Do you remember when Laserdiscs were a thing? God, I miss Laserdisc. But yeah, absolutely worth checking. If you've never seen That Thing You Do, check it out from this next Friday. Yeah, well, I mean, if nothing else, just go on Spotify, wherever your music streaming app of choice is, or even YouTube, and just type in That Thing You Do song. And I guarantee you that song on its own will get you watching that film. Exactly. How catchy is that? I'm going to wind up listening to that, and that's getting listened to in the car later. That's getting
absolutely.
I love That Thing You Do, and you will love it as well. So check that out from next Friday on Disney Plus. The same day, incidentally, that we shall be returning with our next crop of movies. Do we know what's out next week? Do we have a vague idea what's out this next? Oh, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is next week.
Yeah, and if I'm right in thinking you've already seen it.
I have seen Shang-Chi, and I can actually say as well, it's pretty good. I can say it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not even middle. It's not my favorite, but it's not middle.
Okay,
it's in there somewhere. We're gonna be talking.
Better than Snake Eyes.
Ooh. Yes. I mean, it's better than Snake Eyes. I'll give it that. Although I can technically make an argument that certain elements of Snake Eyes, believe it or not, are better written. So, just throwing that up there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll hold that one off for next week. Yeah, that's the big movie of next week, actually. But we'll bring you a crop of other brilliant outings as well for the big screen, as well as always your normal small screen DVD, Blu-ray and streaming options as well. But for now, as ever, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you again next week. And for now, I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been That Thing You Do, and this has been Off Screen, and we shall return.